Hi, welcome to the program Leadership Perspectives, a platform, a program where I discuss everything related to leadership, about the disruptions, the redefinition of leadership, how the role has evolved, and to really understand whether current leadership capabilities or competencies match the marketplace demand. And to discuss that, we have a very eminent personality who is no stranger to Sri Lankan corporate fraternity. He is the current co-founder of Taurus Naturals, Food Revolutions, and also formerly he is the group CEO of Fairway Holdings and also CEO of CBL, Ceylon Biscuits Limited, and also provide leadership positions to many companies including Hemas Holding, GSK, Coca-Cola and Chevron. Over, I would say, 25 years plus experience. He's Imal Fonseka. Imal, thank you very much
Pleasure.
for coming on board
My
with this
pleasure.
program. Let me at the outset, before we really discuss the macro level connotations with regards to the concept of leadership, I want to really pick your brain in terms of your journey, how you have scaled it up, your leadership journey. Now we say that you have to grow into the role and also set benchmarks. Having someone who has worked in so many different MNCs, high pace, obviously moving space and going into and making that adaptation to new companies is a challenge. How much capabilities you have, new employees, new culture, new systems and structures. So how have you scaled up your leadership journey?
Yeah, I think when you're talking of leadership as a journey, you have to start from where I believe the foundations were laid, and that's particularly at my high school. I was fortunate enough to be appointed a school prefect at a very, very junior level, much ahead of most of my batchmates. That gave me a set of competencies and skills which completely prepared me for the journey, for the unexpected journey I had as I proceeded. So very soon, very early in my life, when I was just 23, right. I was posted to the Middle East, that's Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, that whole GCC region. During that time, I worked in an organization with 28 different nationalities. Right. And me being from, not from Europe, where all the complete leadership team across the organization was from Europe, and I was perhaps the first non-Caucasian manager right. In that organization at that time. So that actually set me up for the rest foundation. Of my corporate leadership, right? I think my experience in high school set me up, enabling me to work with so many different people. But once I went there and having worked with them, I think that really, really helped me on the onward journey. Right. But up to that time, I was actually a single operator. Right. I fundamentally I had to work with teams, right. But I didn't really lead teams. Right, okay. My first leadership opportunity came when I was transferred to the South Asian region and particularly Vietnam, where I led the consumer business or the consumer OTC business for GlaxoSmithKline, and that was my first real leadership opportunity. And I learned. Okay. I learned, my team learned with me. We were all
get up to speed. Actually.
Exactly. Okay. We were all in our mid-20s, right. And we were all starting. It was a very entrepreneurial journey. We made massive mistakes.
Right. But dialect would have been also challenged different.
Dialect was ratio, exactly, and the country was just opening up. Right. Most of my colleagues were doing this for the first time in their life. Right. It is an amazing journey. We created a business. Today, GSK has an amazing business in Vietnam, and I think the six of us take credit for setting it up. And that really, I think, gave me an opportunity much earlier in life than to most people to actually head a division, because I was not even 30 when I was heading a division. Right. So then that's what really set off ground, and then of course I worked in the rest of the Far East region and then subcontinent, and then of course the next big step was moving to Hemas Consumer as its managing director. Right. So I was leading the sales and marketing operations hitherto, being a functional leader. But Hemas was the first time I was actually leading a business. That is a humongous step.
Right. Okay.
When I talk to people, when I'm coaching people, etc., a lot of people underestimate the expectations and the role of a CEO or a managing director,
Right.
right? Because it's a very, very lonely place up there,
Right.
right? Everyone thinks, I mean, that's what I should be doing.
Okay.
That's not for everyone.
Right.
And that's, even though you can be a CEO's direct report and you have been running a large team, moving from a functional leadership person to a business leadership person comes with a significant amount of challenge.
Right.
So you must be ready for that. Some of them will try it. I have known so many people who have tried CEO roles and now gone back to CFO roles,
right,
or CMO roles.
Right.
That's also all right, right? I mean, you must
It
do
doesn't
what,
matter.
it doesn't matter at all.
So this will test your innate behavioral skills as well. You will constantly will be challenged
Exactly.
to sometimes change your inner self as well. To
I
that
think so.
extent.
Yes. Because I mean, see, because also, I mean, that's the thing. So again, even when you're leading a division, that is a strong, significant leadership opportunity. But that the type of leadership that's expected in that is very different.
Right.
When you're just the single person on top,
Right.
who has to make the final call,
Right.
and where fundamentally everything ends, right? So that's been the journey. So that's
Sure.
a
Excellent.
description.
Excellent answer. Today's world is so insanely competitive. So what do you think are the critical leadership capabilities that is necessary today to really drive growth? And do you see that companies, especially in these economies, do you find that there's a consistent effort to really systematically kind of embed or structure these kind of capabilities to their systems? You know, looking at long-term leadership, talent pipeline management, preparing the youth for future challenges. Do you see that kind of leadership capabilities are being engraved or infused into the system? Or
See, well, I mean, I'd be brutally honest about this. I think as business leaders, there are two types. There are technically, I think there's almost three types of leaders. The first type are the leaders that aggressively simply focus and drive business performance.
Right.
They seem to be the preferred lot.
right, so
At the
driven
same
by
time.
like a numeric number or
Completely numeric number, everything's aligned to achieving particular numbers,
Right.
quarterly, monthly, annually, whatever,
Right.
right? And completely KPI driven culture,
Right.
systems, processes, all driven towards that. An aggressive push, and particularly at a time like this when there are business challenges, that seems to be a preferred leadership style.
Right.
Then there are those managers who are completely hard.
Right.
I think their time is gone. I mean, there's nothing called completely hard. Then there are the managers who understand the heart, but also who can drive performance.
Right.
And in my mind, that is the place. I mean, that's the type of leadership person. That's the way I will operate.
Yeah.
I will
Because
not
the game is changing, the geography, the labor force, the mentality,
Exactly.
the drivers, inspiration, everything. So you need to stay tuned
Exactly.
to make relevant to
Yes,
the current
yes.
demands. Is that what you're saying?
Very. So I mean, performance is critically important. If your performance doesn't come through,
Technical capabilities is a must. That's
is a
given.
must. It's a
Yeah.
given, and
We
you
love
must
that.
you
Okay.
have to keep on driving numbers. You know that's a given. But that by itself is not it.
Yeah,
The most important thing to me, I think, is to win the hearts of the people you
Right.
work with. They need to share your vision.
Right.
They must want to go your journey,
Right.
And I will tell you that my success, right? I will never attribute my success ever to some skill or competency or amazing unique ability I
Right.
have. Every time something has happened for me, right, where I have performed well in any organization, it has happened only for one reason only, and that is because the people around me have come and taken me through and taken the organization through.
Right.
That is the only thing.
Right.
So if the people believe in your vision, if the people believe that you're true to them,
Yeah.
right, and when they believe that you're true to them, you can easily say no.
Right.
That is what a lot of people don't understand,
Yeah.
right? If they believe that you're honest with them,
Right.
You can say no, that's not how it's going to happen.
And that's also probably to a great extent, a lot of leadership today doesn't really understand that it's okay to show vulnerability as well. That you're
Of
human.
course, exactly.
You can make mistakes.
Exactly.
You don't have all the answers.
Exactly.
And that creates trust, as you said.
Exactly. You must be willing to say, listen, that was my call, I made the call, didn't work, that's okay, we'll move on.
Unfortunately, a lot of people
They don't. And see, and the thing is, when you don't do that, which basically means you don't allow people within your organization to make mistakes.
Right.
Now,
That's
if
my
you
next
play safe,
Yeah.
if you don't want them to make mistakes, they will play safe.
Right.
Nothing will happen.
Absolutely.
You're not building an organization for the future. The guys who build organizations for the future will make mistakes, right? And the reason I always I want people to try different things, give them challenges, and if they make mistakes, if they made a mistake for the good of the company, my only expectation is learn from it and go, because that is how
you just value the effort.
Exactly, that is how my bosses treated me, right? And I know in the Middle East, for example, there was a particular country I wanted to, I don't want to mention the country because of some religious connotations between different sects, but a particular country I wanted to go to, I felt the opportunity was there. The elder statesman in the company always said, listen, our company is from a different religious sect, we might have a problem. But I said, no, listen, I was very young, I was only 23, I said, what crap, that's not going to work. But my boss said, listen, he's a young man. If he thinks, let him try it. The damn thing failed, right? It didn't work for the same reason the elder statesman said, because of sectorial issues, right? But they gave me the opportunity to try. They didn't stifle my need to do something and try something different. So as a result, I have always tried something different, because at the first time nobody stopped me. And so that's what I hope I can inculcate.
I think excellent answer. I think that's already, you have covered a lot on my next question as well. Now, in today's context, I think, as I said, leaders have, as you said, competencies. You already touched upon this. Competencies, excellent, all that. Academically, you have actually mastered your skill set, all that. But as you correctly said, this organization is all about people. So you need to drive that culture. You need to really have the growth mindset, drive people, and make sure that they are ready for the next big idea. Now, this is so strange, because culture, if you really look at cultures, is a kind of a system of shared assumptions, based on the company's values and beliefs and all that, and to redirect that the employees. So it's strange that a lot of if a company wants to really instill an innovative culture, I bet you, Imal, if you take 90% of the companies, in their company values, they will have innovation in their company values. 90% of the companies, right? So, and I have no complaints. It's a great value to have. But in reality, does it cascade down to the frontliners, to the every touch points? You have to ask yourself the question. You want to be innovative, you want to be creative, you want to stay ahead of the curve. Now, does the company, I have experienced myself as well, sometimes you find that they don't allow for mistakes to make, as you quite rightly pointed out. Even mistakes are frowned upon, or even sometimes penalized. So how do you get people to kind of, let's be creative, and they're not going to have that experimental mentality. No way. So how do you see someone who has moved companies and have inbuilt this kind of your philosophy towards life in new cultures, how do you kind of instill that kind of progressive mindset in a new culture, new organization that you join, knowing that that's the way forward? So there are legacy systems structured, there's a lot of adaptation. How do you see that?
So there must be alignment between the ownership of the organization, the board, and the CEO.
So it's top down.
You need that ownership is important. They must genuinely believe in innovation. If they think innovation is getting into some social media platform and having a sexy website, or or innovating some product or service, so you have the companies like that also. So that's sad. Sad state. But the reason I say you need that buy-in at that top end is because when you are talking of innovation is long term. Innovation creates long term value. It takes time, and also even once you bring it to market, for it to really succeed in the market and to become significant profit generator.
Yeah.
It takes time and it takes investment. So a majority of our organizations are far more content with this year's performance
Right.
or this quarter's performance. So those guys don't really want innovation.
Right.
I mean, they just want the.
They have the comfort zone.
I mean, they just don't know.
Double-digit growth. That's it.
I mean,
Yeah.
somehow cream the profits,
Right,
right? That's
yeah.
about, so that's the only competency. I don't think innovation is required except to look good in the annual report.
Yeah.
But if you really, if you really want innovation, you need that ownership at the top, because then you will have the patience and listen, this is the business that we will let go and we'll see.
Right.
It might work, it might not, will we make this investment? Because it takes a lot of front end investment to make
Right.
extremely good profits long term.
Right. Okay.
So that's the
So to a great extent, the top stakeholder buying in is absolute must.
Critical,
That
critical.
will cascade down.
otherwise, you know, I mean, a single CEO is not trying to drive it by himself, is
Yeah.
not going to last there too long.
Right.
That's
Excellent answer. Another one which is related to leadership is how you really measure leadership. Now, my thinking is that there have been so many confusions in terms of what leadership is, true leadership, right? Not for the sake of hierarchy. Now, some believe, some associate leadership to be someone who can really communicate well. Wow, he's a great communicator, so he must be a great leader. Or where you sit in the food chain in terms of the hierarchy, higher designation, greater leader. Or is it something to do with the void that you create when you leave the organization? Like, okay, he has really created impact. Some associate quite rightly pointed out, driven by the quantum value, the numbers, or double-digit growth, or whatever. Now, my question to you is, I think you touch upon this as well. So there can be a little bit of reiteration, but how do you really measure, given the today's the VUCA environment and everything in the corporate world? How do you really measure? Because what I'm saying is, Imal, there can be years where they would have made losses. Does that mean the leader is bad? So how do you really quantify, how do you measure leadership today?
actually it's extremely difficult situation, right? I mean, I think really the legacy in retrospect, the legacy of the leader is easy to how you can determine how an effective leader he has been.
Right.
So when I'm talking of legacy, no, what I mean is the legacy of he leaves behind in the organization.
Okay.
So for example, has he created brands that will sustain through time, right? Has he significantly differentiated the business model that per se is sustainable?
Right.
Has he created a leadership team that can take over from him and run and take it to another level?
The transition has
Transition,
to be
yes.
Absolutely.
So if you look at it, right, and if you see the greatest leaders in my opinion are the people who can leave an organization, and when they leave an organization, hand over a set of brands
Right.
that will continue to sustain for the next 3 to 4 years.
Right.
I mean, then the next guy has to make sure it goes the next 3 to 4. Right.
Yeah.
Has a team in place.
Right.
Who can take on and run. Right. If he has to be replaced with external hire, he's failed his first test.
Right.
That means he's not developed his team to take over from him.
Okay.
Right. So that's the thing. And then the minute he leaves, if you have to make dramatic changes in how the business operates,
Right.
that again means he's not set it up that well.
Right.
So that in my mind is how I would like to look back at a leader. Now that's a very nice philosophical way. When a leader is in place, of course, that's not perhaps the metrics you can use.
See, Imal, I just want to interrupt here. If you look at globally, some of these brilliant leaders, like from Jobs to Elon Musk and all those guys, they're mostly product-driven, product market-driven leaders, right? So they are kind of larger than life. So when they exit, the void that creates is kind of huge. Now, transition from him to Tim Cook is like it's happening, but there can be certain because the brand is so large. Exit of that it can happen, right?
It can. Sometimes there are leaders whose personal brand sometimes is as big as the company. So that can happen. But in my mind, in my opinion, the better leaders would have ensured that, the organization The secure leaders, I think not the better leaders, secure leaders will ensure that there's an organization that's there to take it forward.
Right. Another question that I had in mind is basically, we touched upon this earlier in an indirect way. Today's leadership demands that you need to move away from being a transactional leader to a transformation. Now, I have worked in organization myself that, sometimes, I'm sure you also must have, where you find that irrespective of what's happening, what the market dynamics are saying, still the leaders, the CEOs or MDs are still focusing very narrow, at a very operational level, very tactical level. Because there is nothing called new normal, and people come to realize that it's a next normal. There's always going to be change, right? So to stay ahead of the curve, understanding the red flags, to really inspire the people, and new generations are coming in. 2025, you have all the 5 generations in the history of the planet representing the labor force. So how do you think, Imal, what is required to change the mindset from being a transactional no doubt has its place also. You have to be transactional to change to a transfer. What's the psychology that needs to happen?
So I have a slightly different take on that. I believe the time when there were CEOs who acted like the chairman of the board is gone. Today you need to roll up your sleeves and get off ground running with the people on the ground. So that means as soon as you walk into an organization, you will need to focus on that transactional approach. You will need to focus on it. You will need to make sure it gets done. You need to make sure the right people are doing it. If the right people are not there, you need to move the brain, the right people.
First, yeah.
Get that going.
Right.
Get that going. And as you get that going through time, in your mind, you will start forming the picture
right.
of the transformation you want for the organization. Right. So whilst then you will figure out, now is the time for me to push that transformation. Right? Because sometimes there are little steps that go towards making it, or there will be 1 or 2 big steps that go towards making it.
Right.
But I think, so it's slightly different.
Right.
Slightly different to the type of CEO who would have interviewed me when I started working, to the type of CEO that's required today.
Changing with times and all that, absolutely. Great answer. I want to put you on the spot here. This is a strategic decision. First of all, have you let go of people in an organization?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the question of how do you really let go your employees or making a transition internally or externally? This is a nice quote what Jeff Weiner, CEO of LinkedIn and chairman, who said that when you want to let go of people, the least compassionate thing you could do is to let that guy stay in the organization and expect him to perform over his competency level, right? So you need to figure out how. So there's an element of compassionate, and also you have to stay, aligned with the organizational objectives. How do you kind of move forward, especially if the person is someone close to you, or a direct report, or even middle manager?
So I tended to, because of my style, become very close to a lot of people, across the organization. It can be at shop floor level, it can be at director level. So it's always a tough call. But you have to understand that everyone has a role to play in the organization, and everyone has a burden to perform in the organization. So if there's 1 or 2 or few of them who are not performing to the expectations of the role, they are being unfair not only to the organization but to everyone around it.
Right.
And unfortunately, this is where the leadership mantle comes into place. Either as the functional leader or the business leader, you have to make that call, and you have to have the conversation, right? When you're looking at that exit. So it's an extremely difficult thing, but you have to start looking at it from that perspective. That this is what it takes for the organization to work. Everyone needs to be part of it. Right. There's nothing called it's someone else's. You can't have passengers in any organization.
Free riders.
No free riders. So I think that has to be very clear, and people will respect you for that. If you establish at the very beginning of your life, listen, if all you do is work hard and get together, we will go achieve and hit our dreams. If you are not able to be part of this team, you don't have
integrity and candid two-way conversation.
You have to have that. You have to have that. But that doesn't mean that you will just then pick up some guy and say, listen, out. You know, you're not just going to put someone on the street. You need to make sure that that is sorted out, time is given to find opportunities. You know, you look at the transition. So that you have to do. But listen, definitely no passengers, because you are being unfair. And you start accommodating passengers, you are never going to have a high performance team. Because, I mean, otherwise it's so unfair to the 20% or the 40% who had to pull the weight of everyone.
Absolutely.
No, everyone, I mean, it's not fair at all. Yeah.
Excellent. This is just a general question. What's the philosophy you live by?
So
Life or corporate, everything around. Is there anything that you...
Yeah, so my simple thing is, I mean, I tell this to a lot of people who talk to me. If you talk to any of my old colleagues, right, nobody remembers me for launching into a new brand, launching into new markets. Nobody remembers me for multiplying revenue or growing profit.
Okay.
Nothing.
Right.
Right? Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
But there are lots and lots of people who will say, listen, because he told me, because of his guidance, support or whatever, I am either in this position or I am able to do this better, right? So, you know, my whole philosophy is that at every time I get the opportunity to engage with anyone, if I can positively impact a person's life, that is all that matters to me.
So it's safe to say that, he was a great mentor?
Not mentor necessarily. I mean, listen, this might have been, I was
someone to look after in terms of guide you out.
Exactly. I mean, but
no strings attached.
No strings attached. He sent me on the right path. He stopped me from doing the wrong thing. He supported me when I was in a real crisis. So, you know, that's all I want.
That's amazing. It's amazing. I thought I have to somehow squeeze in a FMCG related question, because you have so much experience, and it would be a crime if I not share about it, if I don't include a question on FMCG. But this is a question at a leadership level, at a decision maker level. Do you see that if you look at FMCG, I will look at probably here this economy, that there is not enough integration of technology or digitalization in FMCG? Why I'm saying that, there are so many tools, from AI to big data or Internet of Things and predictive algorithms, to really clarify and get more clarity on buyer behavior and to optimize your return on investment. So first of all, I want to ask you why is that still we have not really integrated or invested in data science to refine our FMCG, or is it am I right or wrong? I don't know. What's your perspective on that?
I strongly believe that the core competency required in marketing is your numerical capability, because you need to be analytical, right? Marketing is not a art, right? But you need to. It's a data-driven science, right? So that's a fundamental thing. And the biggest issue I believe that's prevailing in this country is that at too young an age, we are separated into an art stream and a science stream, right? And I think some grade 6 or 8 or whatever, you stop doing maths. Right, math is all at 10. You don't do math after grade 10, right? And then it's only, so as a result, if you look at a lot of the people who ended up in most if you look at the organization, competency of numeric competency is very low. So analytical competencies are very low. See, that is why if you look at the limited number of Sri Lankans who have been able to hold leadership positions in marketing or in FMCG across the world, compare that to the Indians, right? There is only one simple difference.
Absolutely.
Those guys can understand the numbers. I'm sad to say, so sad to say that at meeting after meeting, I am sitting there looking at a presentation and saying, shit, can't you see the trend? Don't you understand the number? And it is because people are scared of numbers. So unfortunately, that is the legacy that we are living in this country. So we don't have.
So there is room for integration of.
Oh my God, there is, but it will happen. But the next, I can see the younger guys. the younger guys who are coming into the business are more numerically savvy,
Right.
and therefore it will happen. It will happen in time. But
That's
right
good
now,
for the industry as well.
exactly. Right now, I mean, numeric capabilities. I mean, it's sadly low.
Right. This brings to my last question. I normally ask every guest. Prior to the interview, I asked Imal about the 4 C's of consciousness, about values, integrity, honesty, trust, and also about culture. How you to instill a great performance-driven entity. What's the role of culture play? And also about connecting with different diverse labor generations, populations, not just communication, to go way beyond using tools of empathy and NLP, and also the usual suspects of competence of planning, negotiations, creative thinking. So I asked Imal what is the most important element. I think everything is important. In terms of his pick, in terms of the most significant to drive organizational highly performance-driven organization in today's context.
So I would say that for someone to be a leader, the competence is a given, right? That is like you can't you do your A levels without your O levels, right? So that's a given,
Okay.
right? So without that, I mean,
Yeah.
You're not
going to have a discussion.
You're not going to have a discussion, right? So the next thing is your ability to connect with people, across the organization.
You have to have one pick.
Yeah, so to me that's
connect. Okay.
So the reason I'm saying connect is that the competence, and I think
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, right? I mean, you can't pick a guy from the street and put him in there, right? So then it's connect.
Because conventional training focus on that.
Exactly.
Right? So,
And I think that works great when you're a single performer.
Absolutely.
As an individual performer, for me to do a better job as a brand manager, that mattered.
Absolutely.
When I was marketing manager, that mattered slightly less, but it mattered. When you're a CEO, bloody hell! I mean, that's not it. That's not it. You need to, because you are responsible for the life of 5,000 people. Unless all 5,000 people are coming in that journey with you, it's not going to happen. I mean, I remember post a merger when I was in the Asia Pacific region, we were in our managing director in Bangkok called all of us and said, listen guys, the train is leaving the station. This is where it's going. Either you guys are on the train, or if you don't want to be on the train, get out now. So that's it, right? But to be able to get the people on the train, you need to be able to connect. And you need to be able to connect the diverse group of people.
Absolutely. Great answer. Imal, it has been my pleasure.
My pleasure too.
Having you and taking your time on board to come on board for this program. Well, folks, that's all the time we have. I'm sure the length of the content that we discussed, I hope it would help you to really revisit some of your business strategies, review your decision-making skills, and to stay top of the game, and to drive inspiration among your teams. And till we meet again with another edition of Leadership Perspectives. Thank you for watching. Take care and stay safe.
Thanks, man.